Hi, I'm Martin Jarvis, and once again I want to welcome you to listen. Our nation, we have our ills. It's still a great nation. I hear a lot of people, or see a lot of people on social media ragging on this nation. Folks that are of this nation. And I want to say that, I've lived in other countries. I've lived in Europe. I've lived in Asia. And I want to say this is the greatest country in the world, but let me, and I do say that from time to time, but let me rephrase that. This is my country. And people living in those countries appreciate their countries. Now, of course, some of them don't. But I can't say this is the greatest country in the world. This is the greatest country to me because this is my country. Okay? And so it's not wise to be comparing ourselves to other countries. This country has, health care, for everybody, and this country has higher wages for teachers, and this country that. No, they have their ills. And if you begin to poll the people in those countries, they'll share with you their ills. And some of their ills we don't have, okay? And even when you talk about, challenging other nations like that are even dictate, like China maybe. For the most part, the majority of Chinese people like their country. Certain groups don't, of course. But that's the same thing everywhere, okay? So I believe then that there's a responsibility. I don't want to sound political or anything, but I do believe that if it's my life, it's my responsibility. And just as my children, when they're coming up in my home, I share with them that your job, my job is to go out and make this money. Your job is to go to school. My job is to be a good employee, have good reports written on me, to make as much money as I can. Your job is to be a good student, to have good test scores and good write-ups about you, okay? And so in other words, and so because you struggle in physics or you struggle in calculus, figure it out. My daughter always, that's part of our family little, how they jab at me, because that is my favorite saying, is figure it out. And most of the time when I talk to my kids and I tell them to figure it out, I already know what they should do. But like kids, a lot of times if you just tell them, they don't want to listen. But I know, and if they struggle and they just can't, then I'll share with them. But it's just simply training for life. We can't simply be crying about our situations. And now we have social media as a venue to throw out our woes and our woe is me's and our laments and all. No, we need to stop crying so much and figure out whatever our situation is. And I'm not saying this lightly. And I'm not saying this arrogantly. As many of you know, and I didn't do this because I was suffering, but when Obama became president, I said, this brother's younger than me, has a Harvard education, I had a high school diploma. So at 50 years old, 2009, I started school just to get an associate degree. 10 years later, I earned my MBA. Okay? So in my case, I wasn't doing it because I was suffering, but I did do it. And so because I have a good job. My wife we both make good money. We have a good life. But I'm just suggesting that I have demonstrated that it's possible to improve your status in life. Now I was 50 years old when I started, and I was 60 years old when I finished. So I'm limited on what I could do with it. But I really am not trying to get another job. I've been with the Uncle Sam for like almost 30 years now. And I had a career before that with NCR. Before that, I was in the military. So I'm fine. I just proved something. Proved something to myself, and proved something to anybody out there who's thinking, woe is me, better yourself. Man, I was in a dialogue too long with a bunch of teachers until early this morning because they were lamenting over the low wages teachers have, in this United States. And my suggestion was simply that they needed to figure it out as individuals. Quit crying. And you know, I took a lot of flack for a while until I really began to loosen up and we began to dialogue and share what I was actually saying is, but if this is your life, you are responsible for your life. And oftentimes the negativities that we face are because the choices that we have made in our lives. I know for me, in 1976 when I graduated high school, my father begged me to go to college. He said if I went to college, I would never have to work the whole time I was in college. I said, no, I want to go to boot camp. Stubborn me, 17 years old, I was happy marching around boot camp, and I have to tell you, I enjoyed my life and travel. You know, started off in Mississippi and you know, ended up in Ohio, Wright-Patterson, then went off to Asia, the Orient, Japan, northern Japan. My brother was in Korea, visited him. I had a blast. And then with the GI Bill, honorable discharge, all that, all the perks. Thank you for your service. Now that's something new. They weren't thanking us for our service back then. But anyway, the point is, I made my choices. They have this concept in business called opportunity costs, where we're supposed to be, before you make a decision, you determine what the opportunity cost is going to be. What are you going to gain from it? What are you going to lose for it? And then is it worth it, okay? So you know, we are all beneficiaries and we're all victims to the choices that we've made in life. So whatever your lot in life is, you know, as you get older, as you grow older, that's just your lot in life. And most of the time it's based on choices that you've made. Now, and what I'm suggesting is there are times we cross a line when it's too late, really, to better our lives. But most of the time we are still given opportunities to change the trajectory of our lives. And so that's what I was sharing with these teachers early this morning, is that, you know, that you need to make changes in your life. If there's something that you want that's better than where you're at, you need to do whatever it is, whatever it's going to take to get there. You know, figure it out. Come up with a game plan. You might need more education. You might need to figure out something creative, like a business, you know, that has to do with education, if that's what you love. Or you have to move. Somehow make yourself more marketable, either by your own education, by your own presentation, or simply by moving to somewhere else that appreciates, you know, what you are and what you have. But simply lamenting and complaining about your lot in life, that's not going to help. Because the reality is, from a financial perspective, teachers might have a beef that they're not making enough money. But gosh, man, more than half of Americans aren't making enough money. So there's no difference. So you just have half of the nation, probably more, are not making the money that they need to make to survive. As well, probably the other 3/4 of that half, of the other half, are living lives beyond their means, so they're still in the same financial boat as those teachers. So I think this was all prompted by a Newsweek magazine cover of this teacher that said she had a master's degree, and she had been teaching 16 years and has 2 other jobs and sells her blood plasma. I'm just saying, and this guy was saying, he was thinking I was ragging on her, and how can you talk about somebody who's so well accomplished? My response was, how do you define well accomplished? Is well accomplished getting an education, or is well accomplished utilizing that education, or being successful without an education? Those 2 scenarios are well accomplished. Or even just going to school is not well accomplished. That she needs to do something, she needs to figure something out. To me, for a teacher, if you are teaching, if you have a master's degree and you've been teaching 16 years and you're working 2 extra jobs and selling blood plasma, what are you really teaching those kids? You're not teaching them how to be successful. Now you're on the cover of this magazine complaining. All these kids are seeing, gosh, why should I go to college if that's what's going to happen to me? No, you should have done something else. And you still have time. Do something else. Figure something out. Now, what I would do with her, now this is perfect marketing for that particular teacher. Now that she's on the cover of Newsweek, she needs to find some way to capitalize on that. Don't just cut out the Newsweek picture, frame it, and stick it on your wall. Use that world exposure and build off of that, okay? You can make a business out of that. You could be the person they come to whatever. You could be the spokesman for this. You can get paid. But she probably won't. So her lot in life isn't because there's no well-paying job for an MBA teacher with 16 years experience. It's because she has a difficulty making it work. Man, I know a guy that's a mailman in a neighboring city. He passed the bar exam about 2 years ago. I know another mailman, he's got an MBA majoring in accounting, focusing on accounting. So the accomplishment isn't the education, okay? The education makes the way to possibility of greater accomplishments, okay? That's what I'm suggesting today. And so what I'm suggesting to the teachers and to all people, quit crying. Wipe those tears away. Blow your nose. Get a pencil and paper out. What I would do is pray first. That's what I would do. God, give me an idea. And then sit there with a pencil and paper in the morning, early in the morning when you get up. And I promise you, by the time you get up from the table, you will have at least an outline of a plan to better your life. And this is for everybody, no matter what level you're on. I read an article, and this really impressed me. Maybe it was like 25 or 30 years ago, about this woman. She had been on welfare. She had like 2 or 3 kids, a black woman, no man in her life. She always wanted to be a doctor. She found a way to do it. I don't even remember what she did. I got the article somewhere. But it was difficult, and it took twice as long as most people who become doctors. But once she became a doctor, come on, that was 20, 30 years. She's a retired doctor now. That previous life means nothing. I'm sure it's a motivation to many people. She uses that story. I'm saying she can do it. Anybody can. It might be more difficult, and that's the key. That's the problem. Man, if I went Air Force, man, I was like 17 years old. I was already sworn in, and I was starting to get nervous. I'm a military kid, went out to the base, and just before I went in, I'm looking around the base at all these guys that were in the military. I was a martial artist. I was in shape. I think I was about 172 pounds and, fit. Man, these guys had the stomach, kind of like me right now. They then look like me now. And I'm like, geez, if they could make it, I could make it. And so I'm telling you, when I looked at Obama, if he could have a degree, I could have a degree. Just to stop an associate, didn't stop till my MBA. And that's the key, man. Just look around. If anybody can do it, you can. That's the way I've raised my kids. My son is very successful. My daughter will be successful because I've pounded into their heads all through their lives that if anybody can do it, they got 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head, so do you. If they can do it, you can. And if anybody can do it, you can. Just what do you want to do and what are you willing to give up? I was talking to some folks. 2 issues. The women's issue. Right now there's the women are out and about talking about they're second-class citizens. And I have to agree, there are some things, like the pay disparity and even this thing, the war on women, where they don't have choice over their bodies. That's the abortion issue. That's another issue altogether. But yeah, I do believe that women are created somewhat as second-class citizens. I believe black folks are too. Then a black woman, what do you think about that? But what I'm suggesting is still, whatever your lot in life, it's your responsibility. Now just like with my kids, when I say figure it out, I have the answer for women to regain their equal rights status or gain their equal rights status. I have the solution. I figured it out for black people, how to gain their equal rights status in the United States in 1 year. Women can have their equal rights 1 year. Black folks can have their equal rights in this nation. But nobody's going to just give it to you. What are you willing to do? Now this was my daughter. See, I listen to my kids. My daughter, she'll say some things, but she's changed my mind on certain topics, on certain things, okay? And she checks me on certain things, like social issues, where I might have an antiquated, like a mindset. Daddy, that's sexist. Daddy, that's racist. Then I think about it, yeah. That's what you get when you put them in good schools, okay? Well, anyway, so my daughter made this statement the other day when we were having a conversation that she believed that a woman changing her last name to a man's name when she got married was patriarchal and ridiculous. And at first I was like getting ready to argue with her, and then I got to thinking, she's right. And I posted that on Facebook. And man, all these people started chiming in. Most of them kind of agreed, especially the dads of daughters. Okay? But there was this woman, she was like, really took issue with that because it just was not right. Women are supposed to change their names. And I began to share, that it was a sign of property. Why else would a woman change her name to the man's name? And she was like, well, I'm married and I'm not my husband's property. My response was, well, collars and shackles were a sign of slavery. Would you have a problem wearing a collar and shackles now, even though you weren't a slave? Or the fact that it's a symbol of slavery, would you take issue with it? And she kind of got that. But what I'm suggesting is that it's these little subtle, there's a religious proverb that speaks to little foxes that spoil the vines. And it's like these little subconscious issues that we have, little things end up influencing big things. And I believe the women in our nation and other nations around in second-class status, but particularly our nation, why has it lasted this long? When we have had women in every aspect of business and entrepreneurship and even a vice president of the United States, why are we in a place where women are treated as second-class citizens? What I'm suggesting is because this is what women have allowed. Now, and I've told this to black people too, as far as the black and the oppression in the United States. There was no incentive for white people not to be oppressive or at least enjoy the benefits of living in an oppressive society toward people who are not like them. And so what I'm suggesting is, since there's no incentive to those who are not oppressed to make changes, the only incentive lies in those folks who are being oppressed. So so there are little subtle things why women are making 72 cents on the dollar, doing the same work and everything, because of a subconscious mindset that moves people to respond a certain way. But what I'm suggesting today, just like that woman who was making excuses why it was okay, the subconscious influence to inequality of women is not simply in the minds of men, it's in the minds of women as well. The subconscious influence of black people in this nation to be oppressed is not simply in the mindsets of white folks, it's in the mindsets of black people as well. You need to step up, and I'm going to tell you how to step up. And then you decide what. You remember the Montgomery, Alabama boycott spearheaded by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.? Everybody was taking the bus back then to their jobs, to their various places of employment. But black folks were being forced to sit in the back of the bus. So his determination, his strategy was, okay, we're going to stop using the bus. Because although we are being oppressed and being mistreated to sit in the back of the bus, they're still taking our money. So let's see how they do without our money. So they stopped taking that bus. Man, those bus lines went bankrupt. As a matter of fact, they were caught creating violence. They were mistreating black folks in that city because of the havoc they were wreaking on that city's economy by not riding that bus. And eventually, they changed the law. Black folks could sit anywhere they wanted because black folks took charge. It was a sacrifice. A lot of them had to walk to their places of employment. A lot of them lost their jobs. Some of them, their employers, even the white women who had maids, they would go pick up their employees. It was a community effort, but the effort had to be spearheaded by the people who were mostly affected, the black folks. So they stopped riding those buses. I guarantee it was a tremendous inconvenience, but it was a sacrifice on their part because they saw the greater picture. What I'm suggesting to you right now, if women today in America would decide none of us are going to take the last name of the men we marry, man, it's going to be met with a lot of flack. A lot of men are going to get ticked off. Some men probably won't even marry those women. But I'm telling you, if the end is great enough, the means is justified. I guarantee you, if every woman in this country for 1 year would not change it, well, just never again. Just not. Why should they change their name? 2 people two human beings, two adults, educated adults, uneducated adults, whatever the lot in life, two human beings, equal human beings get married. Why should one take on the name of the other? And if they're going to hyphenate their name, they both need to hyphenate their name. The women need to put their foot down and say, we're going to be equal. But the moment you take the name of this man, you have just submitted to that man. You have just bought into the weaker sex thing because I'm taking his name. So you have given up that. So I'm telling you, it depends on if you really want to eliminate the second-class status of women. The women are the oppressed ones. Women in America, stop giving up your last name when you get married. I don't say this lightly. My wife had suggested that when we got married 23 years ago, man. I got really hot. I understand. But I'm telling you, I still would have married her. You do that for 1 year, the second-class citizen will evaporate because it's subconscious anyway, because of all these affirmations to the inequality of a woman. Stop doing that. See the difference? Black folks, 1 year in America, don't smoke weed, don't do drugs. Don't do cigarettes. Disrupt those industries. 1 year. Come on. Montgomery, Alabama, they could stop taking that bus to their legitimate jobs. Walked to work, lost their jobs, had to carpool, did all kinds of stuff to survive because the end was greater and the means was necessary. So if you want black folks in this nation to be equal, quit drinking alcohol. That is a tremendous industry. Break that industry. Quit doing drugs. Break that industry as well. And take the control of your life out of the hands of the police. And quit smoking cigarettes. That's a large industry as well. You'll find I want to say 1 year, you'll be equal in 1 year. That's how you figure it out. That's how you do it. Nobody's going to do it for you. I was thinking the other day, I mean, because I don't know if they really care. Especially if you're making money for big business. We don't really care. I mean, that's why I take issue with this vaccination thing, man. I mean, I was in the military. I come from a military family. The point of this nation is that you do what you want to do. You make your choices. Now, I've heard a lot of people say, and so if a person wants to take the vaccine, they should take the vaccine. If a person doesn't want to take the vaccine, they shouldn't have to take the vaccine. We have this thing called natural selection. I believe it was Charles Darwin that determined natural selection, that if you're supposed to die, you will die. And so if that's your choice, you'll die. And you know, what's interesting, and so a lot of folks say, well, it's just not fair to the people that you might infect and blah, blah, blah. Really? Yeah, we're talking about the Surgeon General, remember? Now, the Surgeon General, he's really in on this thing, getting your vaccine, getting the COVID vaccine. But before COVID, what was he really hyped about? Whoever the Surgeon General was at the time. It was about the health of Americans. Most Americans were obese, out of shape, unhealthy, heart disease, diabetes, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, you know, all the stuff going on. And just a mess because of the lifestyles that we've chosen to live, you know, in this country. And so that's what they were harping on, because most Americans were unhealthy, terribly unhealthy. Most of the world as well, but right now we're focusing on America for this program. Terribly unhealthy. Childhood obesity, juvenile diabetes, from kids on up. We're extremely sedentary society, and we eat the wrong types of foods. Now, you know, we're so focused on this vaccine thing. Why isn't the government shutting down all these junk foods that are killing us, that have always been killing us, that the Surgeon General is harping on? Why are they still allowed to be so? Surgeon General prior to that was talking about cigarettes. I think his even warning is on the side of cigarette packs. So why didn't they just forbid cigarette companies from selling cigarettes? Shut them down if they're killing Americans and everybody else. Big money. All the snacks. Man, go by a business and look in the little vending area. Look at all that food in there that's killing you. Why are they allowed to keep selling the foods that are killing Americans? And so what I'm suggesting now is all that time the Surgeon General was talking about how unhealthy people are, then this coronavirus hits. Now who is it affecting? The sick and the unhealthy people? It's the people that aren't getting coronavirus are the people that have strong immune systems. I mean, you might catch it, but your immune system will take care of it. So you'll be sick for a moment and then kick it out like all the other little viruses that affect our bodies. So these are the sick people. When they say people that are 60 years old, or prime, I'll be 63 this year. But I'm in good shape. I eat right. I exercise right. My immune system is strong. So it's not that there's a chronological number that the virus sees a 60-year-old and attacks it. No, it's simply assumed that you're going to be this unhealthy when you're 60 years old because of the lifestyles, because of the trends, the lifestyles that we've been living over the years. So it's the sick people that are getting coronavirus, those people that already have these health issues, and primarily because of the lifestyles that they've lived. So now these people are getting their coronavirus shots and they're telling all the healthy people, well, you need to get vaccinated too. These people that have been taking care of themselves all these years aren't getting this virus. They don't want to take the vaccination. They don't need to. But now you're telling them because you couldn't keep yourself healthy that you want them, who they've been responsible taking care of their health, they need to get shots too. Come on now. I mean, this is simply the way nature works. And so, our medical, teams are so good. I think they've been keeping a lot of people alive even longer than we should be living. So, Mother Nature has a way of balancing things out. So my suggestion is then when we consider consider this. So all these sick and unhealthy people that have taken this vaccination need to realize that whatever their health issues were, this vaccination isn't curing that. So you still are obese. You're still out of shape. You still have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, heart issues, and all that, diabetes and all that stuff. The kids still have juvenile diabetes, so they're getting their shots. They still have all the issues the Surgeon General was warning about before coronavirus hit. So my question is, what about the next thing? And I'm not talking about a variant to coronavirus. What about the next strange virus that pops up that has anything to do with coronavirus? Then what? Everybody needs to get another vaccination? Come on now. I'm suggesting, so what I'm suggesting is whether you're vaccinated or not vaccinated, you need to begin taking care of yourself. You need to begin being responsible. So many people that are taking this vaccination are calling those people that haven't taken the vaccination irresponsible. But many of those people are simply in good health and have good, strong immunity systems because they've been responsible. And the reason the vast majority of people require the vaccination is because they have not been responsible with their health. So it is awful interesting how people that have not been responsible with their health, who have gotten the vaccinations because their health is suspect, because of their lifestyle, are now calling those people who were disciplined enough to take care of their health irresponsible for not getting the vaccination, that really they're the ones who need it. But then you find people like me and my family that really don't need the vaccination, but simply acquiesce because, oh well, I have to function in this society. And so it's really not fair. And so many, out of convenience, about not having to deal with the stigma of an issue that people who are irresponsible, primarily irresponsible with their health, created by not having a strong immune system from the get-go. It's really kind of not fair. But, oh well, this is the world in which we live. Still then, I would suggest that those folks that are obese, that those folks are not exercising, that folks are not eating healthy, that you begin to get yourself together so that when the next thing comes up, you might have an immune system that could combat the next virus and not subject even healthy people to require a vaccination so you will feel comfortable. That's what I'm saying. Okay. I don't mean to be so harsh, but I'm just suggesting that most of the issues that we have in our lives, we create them ourselves. And to have an issue that you've created yourself and now blaming someone else from not taking an action to ensure that you don't get sick from an issue that you created. Well, we just need to consider that and just need to get ourselves together. Because we may not be so lucky as to even have a vaccine for the next one. And weak immune systems are what transmit these viruses. I haven't said anything anti-medical. This is a simple reality. If the majority of people were healthy, if the majority of people were not obese, sick, with all these health issues, the majority of people would deal with viruses, as we do many other viruses, when they come along. That is all. So I know we've been on this virus kick, but I was talking about the teachers and about black folks. All of us, we need to take the responsibility to do what we need to do as individuals to take care of ourselves, to make ourselves better. Now the vaccine is fortunate. Yeah, but there is no vaccine for your low wages. There's no vaccine for your lack of education. There's no vaccine for the oppressive lot that you've been forced to deal with in life. You have to figure these things out. And what I am suggesting, what I'll close with today, and what I'm sharing with you is not theory. Any of you that know me, that knew me before my enlightened era, I would always come out with plans. I could figure out a plan to anything. Sometimes they were not good. Sometimes they got me in trouble. But I would figure out a plan, walk it out, and it always worked. And now that I'm reformed, now that I'm a good guy, that realized God existed one day, that's the point, that I've been making, I still feel the same way. You see a problem, you sit down with a pencil and paper early in the morning and just figure it out. There's always a solution. And if I could just leave you with that thought today, there is always a solution. How's that? Well, anyway, I want to thank you once again for joining me and listening. And I want to invite you to listen again. You take care. Bye.